Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're diving deep into one of gaming's most twisted and terrifying universes. But don't worry, we're going to explore it in a way that will gently guide you into peaceful sleep. We're uncovering the complete Resident Evil timeline, a story that spans decades of corporate greed, scientific horror, and humanity's darkest experiments. Before we begin this journey together, go ahead and hit that like button if you're ready for tonight's adventure into the shadows of Umbrella Corporation. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell because I've got so many more gaming lore stories planned that will help you drift off to sleep while exploring incredible worlds. Drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're listening from tonight. I absolutely love seeing our global community come together for these late-night explorations. Now, get comfortable. Maybe dim those lights. Adjust your pillows. Find that perfect position where you can just let your mind wander. Take a deep breath and let yourself settle in as we embark on this incredible journey through time. Picture this: a massive pharmaceutical corporation with a pristine public image, healing the world with groundbreaking medicines and life-saving treatments. Their logo, a simple red and white umbrella, becomes synonymous with hope and progress across the globe. But behind those sterile laboratory walls and beneath those gleaming corporate towers, something far more sinister is taking shape. In the deepest underground facilities, where only the most trusted scientists are allowed to venture, experiments are being conducted that would make the world recoil in horror. Ancient viruses, older than recorded history, are being weaponized and mutated. Human subjects are being transformed into something that can barely be called human anymore. And at the center of it all stands a man whose ambitions stretch far beyond mere profit or scientific achievement. Oswell Spencer, co-founder of Umbrella Corporation, doesn't just want to control the pharmaceutical industry. He doesn't just want to dominate global markets or even governments. No. Spencer's vision is far grander and infinitely more terrifying. He wants to reshape humanity itself, to become a god among mortals, to create a new world order where he reigns supreme over a genetically perfected human race. But Spencer's megalomaniacal dreams require sacrifice. Thousands upon thousands of innocent people will become unwilling test subjects. Entire cities will become testing grounds for biological weapons that defy nature itself. And when the inevitable happens, when these experiments spiral out of control, the consequences will be catastrophic beyond imagination. The story we're about to explore together begins in the 1960s, in the heart of Africa, where a mysterious flower holds secrets that predate civilization. This flower contains something that will change the course of human history forever, something that will lead to the creation of the most dangerous biological agents ever conceived. The T virus, the G virus, parasitic organisms that can control human minds, creatures that blur the line between life and death. But here's what makes this story truly chilling. It almost succeeded. Spencer's plan came terrifyingly close to fruition. If not for a small group of survivors, if not for the courage of ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, our world might have fallen under the shadow of Umbrella's twisted vision. Tonight we'll walk through the decades of deception, following the trail of corporate conspiracy from its origins in African soil to the nuclear destruction of an entire American city. We'll witness how a pharmaceutical company's thirst for power led to global catastrophe, and how ordinary heroes rose up to fight against impossible odds. We'll meet scientists whose pursuit of knowledge led them down paths of unimaginable horror. We'll follow special agents as they uncover conspiracies that reach into the highest levels of government. We'll experience the terror of viral outbreaks that turn familiar streets into nightmarish battlegrounds filled with creatures that were once human. And through it all, we'll discover that the most terrifying monsters in this story aren't the ones created in laboratories. They're the men in suits who signed the orders, who approved the experiments, who knew exactly what they were unleashing upon the world, and chose to do it anyway. So settle in as we begin this journey through one of gaming's most complex and haunting timelines. Let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you towards sleep as we explore how a single discovery in Africa's wilderness would eventually lead to humanity's darkest hour. Close your eyes and let your imagination transport you to a world where science fiction becomes terrifying reality, where corporate boardrooms hide secrets darker than any nightmare. The story of Resident Evil is about to unfold, and it all begins with three ambitious men and a flower that should never have been disturbed. Our journey begins in the sweltering heat of West Africa during the 1960s, in a region where ancient tribal legends speak of flowers that grant immortality to those brave or foolish enough to seek them. The dense jungle canopy filters harsh sunlight into dappled shadows that dance across the forest floor, while the air thrums with the constant buzz of insects and distant calls of exotic birds. Here, in this primordial landscape virtually untouched by modern civilization, three young and ambitious researchers have arrived with dreams of changing the world. Their names are Oswell Spencer, Edward Ashford, and James Marcus, and they represent the future of pharmaceutical science. These men have ventured far from the comfort of university laboratories and corporate boardrooms, drawn by reports of a mysterious flowering plant that local tribes claim possesses supernatural properties. Oswell Spencer stands tall and imposing even in his youth, his sharp blue eyes constantly calculating, always planning several moves ahead. Born into British aristocracy, Spencer carries himself with the confidence of someone who has never been denied anything he truly wanted. His expensive expedition gear remains somehow pristine despite the harsh jungle conditions, and when he speaks there's an authority in his voice that makes others listen instinctively. Edward Ashford represents the purest form of scientific curiosity. Where Spencer sees opportunity and power, Ashford sees knowledge and discovery. His hands shake slightly with excitement as he carefully documents each specimen they collect, filling notebook after notebook with detailed observations and theories. Ashford genuinely believes that their research will benefit all of humanity, that they're on the verge of breakthrough discoveries that will eliminate disease and extend human life indefinitely. James Marcus, the youngest of the three, serves as their guide through both the jungle and the complex world of virology. His expertise in viral research makes him invaluable to the expedition, and his methodical approach to experimentation provides the foundation for everything they hope to accomplish. Marcus has dedicated his life to understanding how viruses work, how they spread, and most importantly, how they can be controlled and modified. The flower they seek, known to local tribes as Stairway of the Sun, grows in only the most remote and dangerous parts of the jungle. Tribal elders speak of it in hushed, reverent tones, warning that those who disturb the ancient plant invite terrible consequences. But the three researchers dismiss such warnings as primitive superstition. When they finally locate the flower, it exceeds even their wildest expectations. The Stairway of the Sun stands nearly 6 feet tall, its massive bloom pulsing with an otherworldly luminescence that seems to shift colors in the dim jungle light. The petals feel warm to the touch, almost alive, and the very air around the plant seems to vibrate with barely contained energy. What they discover within this remarkable flower will become known as the progenitor virus, though they won't understand its true significance for years to come. This ancient organism has existed for millions of years, predating human civilization by eons. It represents evolution's most ambitious experiment, a biological catalyst capable of accelerating genetic change at an unprecedented rate. As the three partners carefully harvest samples and begin their preliminary research, they start to glimpse the incredible potential hidden within this viral strain. In controlled laboratory conditions, The progenitor virus demonstrates the ability to enhance physical capabilities, accelerate healing, and even extend natural lifespan. It seems like the answer to humanity's oldest dreams, the key to unlocking human potential beyond all previous limitations. But even in these early days of discovery, there are troubling signs that not everything is as perfect as it appears. Some test subjects experience violent mutations rather than beneficial enhancements. Others lose their higher cognitive functions, reverting to a state of primitive aggression that requires immediate containment. And occasionally subjects die and then somehow return to a state that can barely be called life. Edward Ashford, ever the dedicated scientist, insists on conducting the most dangerous experiments personally. He believes that direct observation will help him understand the virus's mechanisms and develop proper safeguards. This decision will ultimately cost him everything, but in these early days optimism still outweighs caution. Meanwhile, Spencer's mind races with possibilities that extend far beyond mere scientific achievement. He envisions a world where genetic perfection becomes attainable, where human evolution can be guided and controlled rather than left to random chance. In quiet moments when his partners aren't watching, Spencer's eyes take on a distant look as he contemplates futures that only he can see. The partnership formed in that African jungle will eventually give birth to Umbrella Corporation. But for now, the three men work together in harmony, united by their shared belief that they're on the verge of discoveries that will reshape human destiny. None of them can imagine how terribly wrong they are about to be. The transformation from scientific partnership to global corporation happens with startling swiftness. By 1968, the three researchers have returned from Africa with samples that will change everything, and their preliminary findings attract attention from investors across Europe and America. The pharmaceutical industry recognizes immediately that whatever these men have discovered represents a quantum leap beyond anything previously imagined. Umbrella Pharmaceuticals incorporates with impressive fanfare, its headquarters rising like a gleaming monument to human ambition in the heart of Switzerland. The company's public face radiates respectability and hope. Press releases speak of revolutionary treatments for genetic disorders, breakthrough therapies for degenerative diseases, and the promise of extended human lifespan through responsible scientific advancement. But beneath this carefully crafted public image, a different kind of research takes shape. Spencer, now serving as the corporation's primary executive, begins establishing what he euphemistically calls special projects divisions. These facilities operate under the strictest secrecy, their true purposes hidden even from most Umbrella employees. Only the highest clearance levels grant access to laboratories where the real work begins. James Marcus receives appointment as chief researcher for viral weapons development, though the official corporate records list his department simply as advanced biological research. His new laboratory complex, built deep within the Arklay Mountains of Pennsylvania, becomes the birthplace of horrors that will eventually consume the world. The facility's remote location ensures complete isolation, while its underground design provides containment for experiments too dangerous to conduct anywhere near populated areas. Marcus approaches his work with scientific rigor that borders on obsession. He understands better than anyone else the delicate balance required to harness the progenitor virus safely. The original African strain proves incredibly unstable in laboratory conditions, mutating rapidly and unpredictably. Most attempts to cultivate it result in complete cellular breakdown, while successful cultures often demonstrate properties that defy conventional biological understanding. Working 18-hour days in sterile laboratory conditions, Marcus begins the painstaking process of creating what will eventually become known as the T virus. The T stands for tyrant, though this designation won't become clear for several more years. His goal involves developing a more stable variant of the progenitor virus, one capable of controlled enhancement rather than chaotic mutation. The early experiments require test subjects, and Spencer ensures that Marcus has access to whatever materials he needs. Corporate records from this period remain heavily classified, but surviving documentation suggests that initial testing occurs on laboratory animals before progressing to more complex subjects. The results vary wildly from promising to catastrophic, with very little middle ground between success and absolute failure. Meanwhile, Edward Ashford continues his own research in London, focusing on the medical applications of their discovery. His approach differs significantly from Marcus's weapons development program. Where Marcus seeks to weaponize viral enhancement, Ashford genuinely believes they can create beneficial treatments that will eliminate human suffering. His laboratory becomes a haven of legitimate medical research, producing actual pharmaceutical breakthroughs that help establish Umbrella's reputation as a benevolent corporation. But Ashford's idealism makes him increasingly uncomfortable with the direction Spencer has chosen for the company. Corporate board meetings become tense affairs where Ashford argues passionately for transparency and ethical oversight, while Spencer dismisses such concerns as naive impediments to progress. The philosophical divide between the two founders grows wider with each passing month. Spencer's vision extends far beyond simple profit or even scientific achievement. Private documents discovered decades later reveal the true scope of his ambitions. He doesn't merely want to control viral enhancement technology. He wants to use it to reshape human civilization according to his own design. Spencer believes that natural evolution has run its course, that humanity requires guided genetic improvement to reach its true potential. The Arklay Mountains facility expands rapidly throughout the early 1970s. Its underground chambers growing deeper and more extensive with each construction phase. What begins as a single laboratory complex evolves into a sprawling subterranean city dedicated entirely to biological research and development. Hundreds of scientists and support staff work within its sealed environment, most of them completely unaware of the facility's true purpose. Security measures at the Arklay facility rival those of military installations. Electronic surveillance monitors every corridor and laboratory space, while armed guards maintain constant patrols throughout the complex. Multiple containment protocols ensure that experimental materials cannot escape into the surrounding environment, though these safeguards will ultimately prove insufficient against the forces Marcus is attempting to control. As 1975 approaches, Marcus achieves his first major breakthrough in T-virus development. The new strain demonstrates remarkable stability compared to earlier iterations, maintaining its enhancement properties without the rapid degradation that plagued previous versions. Test subjects show increased physical capabilities, accelerated healing rates, and extended survival periods under extreme conditions. But success comes with disturbing side effects that Marcus documents with scientific detachment. Enhanced subjects display aggressive behavioral changes, reduced cognitive function, and an alarming tendency toward cannibalistic behavior. These developments should serve as warnings about the dangerous path they're pursuing, but Spencer views them as acceptable trade-offs for the power they're unlocking. The stage is now set for discoveries that will shake the foundations of human civilization. By 1976, the T-virus research program has produced results that exceed even Spencer's most optimistic projections. The virus demonstrates capabilities that challenge fundamental assumptions about biology, death, and the boundaries of human enhancement. What Marcus has created transcends simple genetic modification, entering territory that blurs the line between science and the supernatural. The first successful human test subject survives T-virus infection with remarkable transformations that both thrill and terrify the research team. Physical strength increases by several 100%, while reflexes accelerate to superhuman levels. Injuries that should prove fatal heal within hours, and the subject displays apparent immunity to conventional diseases. For a brief moment, it seems like humanity's ultimate evolution has been achieved. But celebration proves premature. Within 72 hours, the enhanced subject begins displaying behavioral changes that alarm even the most hardened researchers. Higher cognitive functions deteriorate rapidly, replaced by primitive survival instincts that prioritize violence and consumption above all else. The subject loses capacity for speech, reasoning, and emotional connection, becoming something that resembles humanity only in basic physical appearance. Most disturbing of all, when researchers finally euthanize the subject to prevent further degradation, the body refuses to remain dead. Cellular regeneration continues even after brain activity ceases, creating a state of pseudo-life that defies medical explanation. The reanimated subject moves with purposeful aggression, seeking to attack and consume any living tissue within reach. Marcus documents these developments with scientific fascination rather than moral concern. His research notes describe the reanimated subjects as representing a new form of biological weapon, one that combines enhanced physical capabilities with complete elimination of conscience or restraint. He begins referring to these creatures as bioorganic weapons, or BOWs, a term that will become synonymous with Umbrella's darkest achievements. The discovery of post-mortem reanimation opens entirely new avenues for weapons development. Traditional military thinking focuses on eliminating enemy forces, but the T-virus offers something far more valuable from a strategic perspective. Infected enemies don't simply die. They become infectious agents capable of spreading the virus to others while simultaneously attacking their former allies. Corporate executives recognize immediately that they possess technology with applications extending far beyond conventional warfare. Governments around the world would pay extraordinary sums for biological agents capable of destabilizing entire regions without requiring traditional military intervention. The plausible deniability offered by viral weapons makes them particularly attractive to intelligence agencies and covert operations specialists. Edward Ashford grows increasingly horrified as reports from the Arklay facility reach his London laboratory. The man who once dreamed of eliminating human suffering now confronts evidence that his discovery has been perverted into something monstrous. His attempts to influence company policy meet with polite dismissal from Spencer, who has consolidated power within the corporate structure to ensure his vision remains unchallenged. Tension between the founding partners reaches a breaking point during a particularly volatile board meeting in late 1976. Ashford demands immediate termination of all weapons research programs, arguing that the moral and practical risks far outweigh any potential benefits. Spencer responds by questioning Ashford's commitment to scientific progress, suggesting that squeamishness about necessary research methods indicates weakness of character. The philosophical divide between medical application and weapons development reflects a broader moral question about the relationship between scientific capability and ethical responsibility. Ashford represents the traditional view that knowledge should serve human welfare, while Spencer embodies a more ruthless perspective that views power as its own justification. Meanwhile, Marcus continues pushing the boundaries of viral enhancement technology. His research program expands to include multiple T-virus variants designed for specific applications. Some strains prioritize physical enhancement over cognitive preservation, while others focus on maximizing infection rates or extending post-mortem animation periods. The Arklay facility becomes a nightmarish laboratory where hundreds of test subjects undergo viral infection under carefully controlled conditions. Research protocols document everything from initial infection symptoms through complete behavioral transformation and eventual reanimation. The accumulated data creates a comprehensive understanding of how the T-virus affects human biology at every level. But containment remains an ongoing challenge that grows more complex as research expands. Several minor incidents occur when infected subjects breach laboratory security, requiring immediate response from heavily armed containment teams. These episodes provide valuable real-world data about viral spread patterns, but they also demonstrate how quickly the situation could spiral beyond anyone's control. Spencer views these containment challenges as acceptable risks in pursuit of revolutionary technology. His private communications reveal complete confidence in Umbrella's ability to maintain control over viral weapons development. Regardless of how dangerous the research becomes, this hubris will ultimately prove catastrophic. But in the mid-1970s, success breeds overconfidence rather than caution. As 1977 begins, Marcus prepares to implement the next phase of his research program. The discoveries made thus far represent only the beginning of viral weapons development. The true horror of what they've unleashed has yet to reveal itself, but the foundation for global catastrophe has already been established in the depths of the Arklay Mountains. The year 1978 marks what initially appears to be the culmination of Marcus's research efforts. After nearly a decade of experimentation, the T-Virus program achieves what corporate executives consider complete success. The latest viral strain demonstrates remarkable stability, predictable effects, and manageable containment requirements. For the first time since beginning their African research, the Umbrella leadership believes they have created a perfect biological weapon. Marcus presents his findings to the board of directors with understated pride, his scientific documentation proving that T-virus weaponization has moved beyond experimental theory into practical application. Test subjects consistently display enhanced physical capabilities while maintaining sufficient motor function for basic tactical operations. The reanimation effect occurs reliably within hours of clinical death, creating bioorganic weapons that require no ongoing maintenance or supply chains. Corporate projections suggest enormous profit potential from government contracts worldwide. Military officials who receive classified briefings about T-virus capabilities express immediate interest in procurement discussions. The technology offers strategic advantages that conventional weapons simply cannot match, particularly for conflicts where plausible deniability takes precedence over direct confrontation. Spencer celebrates this apparent triumph by approving construction of additional research facilities across multiple continents. Each new installation will focus on different aspects of biological weapons development, creating a global network of laboratories dedicated to viral enhancement technology. The corporate expansion represents Spencer's confidence that they have conquered the technical challenges associated with T-virus research. But success creates its own complications that prove more dangerous than the original experimental challenges. As Umbrella's biological weapons program expands, maintaining absolute secrecy becomes increasingly difficult. More personnel require security clearances, additional facilities need construction permits, and growing supply chains create paper trails that could attract unwanted attention from regulatory agencies. Edward Ashford's concerns about ethical implications intensify as the weapons program moves toward operational deployment. His objections to biological weapons development have evolved from philosophical disagreement to urgent warnings about catastrophic risks. Ashford argues passionately that T-virus technology represents an existential threat to human civilization, one that no organization should possess regardless of potential benefits. The conflict between Ashford and Spencer reaches a decisive moment during a heated executive meeting in early 1978. Ashford threatens to expose the weapons program unless Umbrella immediately terminates all military applications of their viral research. His ultimatum creates a crisis that Spencer cannot resolve through negotiation or compromise. Spencer's response reveals the ruthless pragmatism that has driven Umbrella's transformation from pharmaceutical company to weapons manufacturer. Rather than risk exposure of corporate secrets, he arranges for Ashford to suffer a convenient laboratory accident during a routine research session. The official cause of death lists accidental exposure to experimental viral strains, a tragic occupational hazard that claims even the most experienced researchers. Ashford's elimination removes the primary internal opposition to biological weapons development, but it also creates new risks that Spencer fails to anticipate. Ashford's son Alexander inherits his father's research notes and laboratory facilities, along with growing suspicions about the circumstances surrounding the fatal accident. The younger Ashford possesses both the scientific knowledge and personal motivation necessary to continue his father's work independently. Marcus remains focused entirely on technical aspects of viral enhancement, apparently indifferent to the corporate politics swirling around weapons development programs. His research continues advancing at an impressive pace, with new T-virus variants demonstrating increasingly sophisticated capabilities. Some strains target specific biological systems, while others create specialized mutations designed for particular tactical applications. The training facility, hidden deep within the Arklay Mountains, becomes Marcus's personal kingdom where he exercises complete authority over viral research programs. Hundreds of test subjects cycle through his laboratories, their transformations and eventual destruction providing the data necessary to refine T-virus effectiveness. Marcus views these human experiments with scientific detachment, considering ethical concerns irrelevant to the pursuit of knowledge. But Marcus's isolation from corporate politics makes him vulnerable to machinations. He doesn't fully understand. Spencer has grown increasingly concerned about the concentration of critical knowledge in a single researcher's hands. The T-virus program's success depends entirely on Marcus's expertise, creating a potential weakness in Umbrella's strategic position. Corporate contingency planning begins addressing scenarios where Marcus might become unavailable through accident, illness, or defection. Spencer authorizes recruitment of additional viral researchers capable of continuing T-virus development independently. The most promising candidate emerges as William Birkin, a young scientist whose research credentials suggest exceptional potential for advanced biological weapons development. Birkin joins the Arklay facility's research staff in late 1978, officially serving as Marcus's assistant, while secretly reporting directly to Spencer about progress in T-virus refinement. His dual role creates tension within the laboratory hierarchy, but Marcus appears oblivious to the political undercurrents affecting his research program. As 1979 approaches, Umbrella Corporation has achieved everything Spencer envisioned. During those early days in the African jungle, the T-virus represents humanity's most dangerous achievement, a biological weapon capable of reshaping global power structures. But the apparent success masks fundamental instabilities that will ultimately destroy everything they have built. The stage is set for betrayals that will shatter the original partnership and unleash horrors beyond imagination. The betrayal comes swiftly and without warning. In July 1988, James Marcus arrives at his training facility laboratory, expecting another routine day of viral research, unaware that corporate assassins have already infiltrated the compound. Spencer's patience with his former partner has finally reached its limit, and the decision to eliminate Marcus reflects cold calculation rather than personal animosity. Marcus has become a liability that Umbrella can no longer afford. His encyclopedic knowledge of T-virus development makes him irreplaceable, but also makes him dangerous should he ever decide to leave the company or expose their weapons program. Spencer recognizes that consolidating control over biological weapons technology requires eliminating anyone whose loyalty cannot be guaranteed absolutely. The assassination unfolds with clinical efficiency that would make Marcus proud of its scientific precision. Corporate security operatives, led by a promising young researcher named Albert Wesker, execute their mission without complications. Marcus dies believing he has fallen victim to a laboratory accident, never realizing that his former friend has orchestrated his murder to seize control of everything they built together. William Birkin steps seamlessly into Marcus's position as head of viral weapons research, bringing fresh perspectives to T-virus development while maintaining continuity with established research protocols. His appointment represents more than simple succession. It marks Umbrella's transition from experimental research company to operational weapons manufacturer. Birkin's scientific approach differs significantly from his predecessor's methodical documentation style, where Marcus focused obsessively on perfecting existing viral strains. Birkin pursues revolutionary breakthrough applications that push T-virus technology into entirely new territory. His research notes reveal ambitious plans for viral variants designed to enhance human intelligence rather than simply increasing physical capabilities. The Arklay Mountains facility undergoes massive expansion under Birkin's leadership, with new underground levels extending deeper into the earth than Marcus ever imagined necessary. These additional laboratories provide space for research programs that require enhanced security measures and complete isolation from the surface world. The facility becomes a self-contained city dedicated entirely to biological weapons development. Birkin's most significant innovation involves developing what he terms the G-virus, a revolutionary enhancement to basic T-virus technology that promises capabilities beyond anything previously achieved. While T-virus creates enhanced but fundamentally unstable organisms, G-virus aims to produce perfect biological weapons that retain human intelligence while gaining supernatural physical abilities. The G-virus project operates under classification levels that exceed even standard Umbrella security protocols. Only a handful of researchers possess clearance to access related materials, and even fewer understand the full scope of what Birkin hopes to accomplish. Corporate executives receive periodic progress reports, but the technical details remain compartmentalized to prevent unauthorized access. Meanwhile, Spencer's paranoia about security leaks leads to the establishment of Special Tactics and Rescue Service, ostensibly a specialized police unit serving Raccoon City but actually functioning as Umbrella's private security force. STARS provides legitimate cover for corporate operatives, while offering a recruitment pool for personnel capable of handling bioorganic weapons incidents. Albert Wesker receives appointment as STARS Alpha Team Leader, a position that places him perfectly to monitor potential security threats while maintaining his cover as a dedicated law enforcement officer. His dual role allows Umbrella to influence local government responses to any biological incidents that might occur near corporate facilities. The STARS program attracts exceptional personnel whose skills make them valuable assets for both legitimate police work and covert corporate operations. Chris Redfield brings military combat experience and natural leadership abilities, while Jill Valentine contributes specialized training in explosives and tactical operations. These individuals join STARS believing they serve public safety, unaware that their ultimate employer pursues goals that threaten human civilization. Raccoon City itself undergoes transformation during this period, evolving from a modest Midwestern community into a thriving corporate town that exists primarily to support Umbrella's expanding operations. The company becomes the region's largest employer, providing jobs for thousands of families while maintaining carefully constructed facades that hide the true nature of local research activities. Underground laboratories beneath Raccoon City rival the Arklay facility in scope and sophistication, though their research focus emphasizes practical weapons applications rather than theoretical viral development. These urban facilities provide testing environments that simulate real-world deployment conditions, allowing researchers to evaluate bioorganic weapons performance in scenarios closely resembling actual combat situations. Corporate influence extends throughout Raccoon City's government structure, with Umbrella representatives holding key positions in municipal administration, law enforcement leadership, and emergency response planning. This comprehensive control ensures that any biological incidents can be contained and covered up before attracting unwanted attention from federal authorities. But Birkin's research ambitions create risks that corporate security measures cannot entirely eliminate. G-virus development requires increasingly dangerous experimental procedures that push laboratory safety protocols beyond their designed limits. Several minor containment breaches occur throughout 1988 and 1989, each incident providing valuable data about viral transmission while demonstrating how quickly situations can spiral beyond anyone's control. The stage is set for discoveries that will ultimately consume everything Spencer has worked to build, though none of the participants recognize how close they stand to unleashing global catastrophe. The summer of 1998 arrives with an oppressive heat that seems to settle permanently over the Arklay Mountains, creating atmospheric conditions perfect for the horror about to unfold. Deep within the forest surrounding Umbrella's original research facility, something has gone terribly wrong. Hikers and campers who venture too far into the wilderness simply disappear, their abandoned campsites discovered weeks later with signs of violent struggle but no trace of the victims themselves. Local authorities initially dismissed these disappearances as unfortunate accidents, typical of challenging wilderness terrain. The Arklay Mountains have always claimed occasional victims among inexperienced outdoors enthusiasts, and the isolated location makes rescue operations difficult under the best circumstances. But the frequency and pattern of recent incidents suggests something far more sinister than natural hazards or human error. The first concrete evidence of biological contamination emerges when Forest Service workers discover mutilated animal carcasses displaying characteristics that defy natural explanation. Bears, deer, and smaller woodland creatures have been found torn apart by something possessing tremendous strength and apparent disregard for normal predator behavior. More disturbing still, some animal remains show signs of partial consumption followed by reanimation, creating creatures that blur the line between life and death. Dr. Rebecca Chambers, serving as medic for STAR's Bravo team, becomes the first official investigator to recognize the viral nature of whatever plague has infected the Arklay wilderness. Her medical training allows her to identify symptoms consistent with aggressive pathogen exposure, though she lacks sufficient context to understand the full scope of what they're confronting. The Bravo team investigation begins as a routine search and rescue operation, their mission focused on locating missing persons and determining the cause of recent disappearances. Team leader Enrico Marini approaches the assignment with professional confidence, expecting to find evidence of animal attacks or possibly illegal hunting activities. None of them anticipate discovering the epicenter of biological warfare research that has operated in secret for over 2 decades. Rebecca's encounter with Billy Cohen, an escaped military prisoner whose transport convoy was attacked by creatures that shouldn't exist, provides the first human testimony about what lurks within the forest. Billy's account describes reanimated corpses that hunt with pack intelligence, moving through the wilderness with purposeful coordination that suggests retained tactical awareness despite obvious physical decay. Their investigation leads them inevitably to the abandoned Umbrella training facility, where James Marcus conducted his original T-virus research until his assassination 10 years earlier. The facility has remained sealed since Marcus's death, its automated systems maintaining power and environmental controls while keeping dangerous specimens contained within reinforced laboratory chambers. But containment has begun failing as aging infrastructure succumbs to time and neglect. Electrical systems designed for 10-year operational lifespans have functioned for 20 years beyond their intended service periods. Security locks malfunction regularly, allowing infected specimens to escape into facility corridors where they encounter maintenance workers and security personnel who become additional vectors for viral transmission. The training facility holds secrets that even current Umbrella executives have forgotten, including Marcus's final research project involving hybrid organisms that combine T-virus enhancement with parasitic control mechanisms. These creatures represent evolutionary dead ends that Marcus abandoned when corporate priorities shifted toward more practical weapons applications. But they've continued developing within sealed laboratory environments for the past decade. Rebecca and Billy's exploration of the facility reveals the true scope of Marcus's research program, including extensive documentation of human experimentation that preceded the more famous Arklay Mansion incidents. Thousands of test subjects passed through Marcus's laboratories during the facility's operational period, their transformations meticulously recorded before they were terminated to prevent security breaches. Most disturbing of all, they discover evidence that Marcus himself may have survived his apparent assassination through exposure to experimental viral strains that granted him a form of immortality. Security recordings from the weeks before the facility's abandonment show a figure matching Marcus's description, moving through laboratory areas that should have been completely sealed, suggesting that death may not have ended his research activities. The revelation that Marcus might still exist in some form creates implications that extend far beyond simple viral contamination. If the original T-virus creator has spent 10 years developing enhanced strains in complete isolation, his accumulated research could represent advances that current Umbrella scientists cannot even imagine. The possibility that such knowledge remains hidden within the abandoned facility makes the location strategically critical for multiple competing interests. Corporate records indicate that Spencer ordered the training facility sealed rather than destroyed, specifically to preserve Marcus's research materials for future recovery. The decision reflects Spencer's recognition that Marcus's work contained insights too valuable to lose, even if retrieving them required accepting significant security risks. As Rebecca and Billy fight their way through corridors filled with creatures that represent Marcus's legacy, they begin to understand that the Arklay wilderness contamination represents only the beginning of a much larger catastrophe. The training facility serves as ground zero for biological threats that have been spreading silently through the ecosystem for months, creating conditions that will soon trigger events beyond anyone's ability to control. The Spencer Mansion looms against the stormy night sky like a monument to Victorian Gothic architecture, its imposing facade hiding secrets that will reshape everything STAR's Alpha team believes about their mission. What should have been a straightforward rescue operation to locate their missing Bravo team colleagues has led them to this remote estate, where decades of illegal experimentation have created a nightmare that defies rational explanation. Captain Albert Wesker guides his team through the mansion's ornate entrance with apparent calm, though his hidden agenda makes him the most dangerous person in the building. For months, Wesker has been manipulating events to bring STAR's personnel to this location, intending to use them as unwitting test subjects for Umbrella's most advanced bioorganic weapons. His facade as a dedicated law enforcement officer conceals loyalty to corporate interests that view human life as expendable research material. Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine separate to explore different sections of the mansion, their training preparing them for criminal suspects or natural hazards, but offering no guidance for dealing with reanimated corpses that shamble through elegant hallways. The juxtaposition of refined Victorian decor with grotesque biological horrors creates an atmosphere of surreal dread that challenges their sanity as much as their survival skills. The mansion's layout reflects its dual purpose as both residential space and clandestine research facility. Public areas maintain the appearance of a wealthy family's private estate, complete with libraries, dining rooms, and recreational spaces that suggest normal domestic life. But hidden passages lead to underground laboratories, where T-virus research has continued uninterrupted for years. Jill's discovery of the mansion's true nature begins when she encounters Lisa Trevor, a test subject, whose prolonged exposure to multiple viral strains has created something that transcends normal biological classification. Lisa has endured decades of experimentation that would kill ordinary humans within hours. Her body adapting to each new viral injection while retaining enough humanity to remember the family she lost to Umbrella's research program. Lisa represents the ultimate expression of Spencer's vision for human enhancement, though her psychological state demonstrates the hideous cost of such transformation. She possesses near invulnerability to physical damage, immunity to viral infection, and strength sufficient to tear through steel barriers. But these capabilities come at the price of sanity, leaving her trapped in an endless cycle of rage and confusion that makes her more dangerous than any deliberately designed weapon. Chris's investigation reveals the mansion's connection to the training facility, where Rebecca and Billy recently confronted Marcus's legacy. Corporate documents found in hidden offices detail the transfer of research materials and personnel between facilities, creating a comprehensive picture of Umbrella's biological weapons development network. The Spencer Mansion serves as the operational headquarters for T-virus research, while satellite facilities handle specialized applications and testing procedures. The truth about Umbrella Corporation emerges gradually as STARS team members piece together evidence from laboratory computers, research notes, and recorded communications between corporate executives. What began as legitimate pharmaceutical research has evolved into a global conspiracy that threatens human civilization through the deliberate development and deployment of biological weapons. Most shocking of all, they discover that their own organization exists primarily to serve Umbrella's interests rather than protect public safety. STARS provides corporate security forces with highly trained personnel who can respond effectively to bioorganic weapons incidents while maintaining plausible cover for cleanup operations. Every member of the team has been selected specifically for skills that make them valuable assets in situations involving viral contamination. Wesker's betrayal becomes undeniable when he leads Chris and Jill into a confrontation with the Tyrant, Umbrella's most advanced bioorganic weapon designed to serve as the ultimate soldier. The creature combines T-virus enhancement with genetic modifications that eliminate unwanted side effects like cognitive degradation or uncontrolled aggression. Standing over 7 feet tall with enhanced muscle mass and retractable claws, the Tyrant represents everything Spencer envisioned for the future of warfare. The battle with the Tyrant forces STARS survivors to confront the reality that they face enemies beyond conventional law enforcement protocols. Standard firearms prove inadequate against creatures designed to withstand military-grade weapons, while the mansion's layout favors defenders who possess superhuman physical capabilities. Only through combining their skills and exploiting environmental advantages can they hope to survive encounters with bioorganic weapons. But defeating individual creatures provides only temporary relief from a threat that extends far beyond the Spencer Mansion. Corporate communications reveal that similar facilities operate worldwide, each developing specialized applications for T-virus technology. The Arkley Mountains represent only one node in a global network dedicated to biological weapons research, with installations on every inhabited continent. The mansion's destruction eliminates one source of viral contamination, but it also serves as a warning about the scope of Umbrella's operations. As survivors escape into the night, they carry knowledge that will eventually expose the corporation's crimes, though the cost of that revelation will prove far higher than anyone can imagine. The stage is set for corporate retaliation that will transform an entire city into a testing ground for biological weapons. September 29th, 1998, arrives with an autumn chill that carries more than seasonal change through the streets of Raccoon City. In the depths of Umbrella's underground research facility, William Birkin makes a discovery that will transform him from brilliant scientist into something far more terrifying. His G-virus research has reached a breakthrough moment, creating a biological agent that promises to revolutionize human evolution through controlled genetic enhancement. The G-Virus represents everything Birkin has worked towards since assuming control of viral weapons development 10 years earlier. Unlike the T-Virus, which creates enhanced but ultimately unstable organisms, G-Virus offers permanent genetic modification that retains human intelligence while granting supernatural abilities. Test subjects demonstrate rapid tissue regeneration, enhanced physical strength, and adaptive capabilities that allow survival in previously lethal environments. But Birkin's triumph attracts unwanted attention from corporate rivals who recognize the strategic value of his research. The United States military, working through covert intelligence networks, authorizes a retrieval operation designed to secure G-Virus samples before Umbrella can weaponize the technology. The mission represents a calculated risk that government officials believe justifies potential civilian casualties. The retrieval team infiltrates Umbrella's underground laboratory complex through maintenance tunnels that provide access to heavily secured research areas. Their objective focuses on obtaining viable G-Virus samples along with supporting documentation that would allow independent research programs to replicate Birkin's achievements. The operation proceeds smoothly until Birkin himself intervenes to protect his life's work. Confronted by armed operatives demanding surrender of his research materials, Birkin makes a desperate decision that transforms scientific breakthrough into global catastrophe. Rather than allow his G-Virus samples to fall into government hands, he injects himself with the experimental serum, trusting that genetic enhancement will provide protection against conventional weapons. The transformation begins immediately, as G-Virus rewrites Birkin's genetic structure at the cellular level. His body mass increases dramatically while bone density doubles to support enhanced muscle development. Neural pathways reorganize to accommodate superhuman reflexes and sensory perception. Within minutes, William Birkin ceases to exist as a human being, becoming instead the first successful G-Virus mutant. But enhancement comes with consequences that Birkin failed to anticipate during his research planning. G-Virus infection triggers intense psychological changes that prioritize survival and reproduction above all other considerations. The brilliant scientist who created revolutionary biotechnology becomes a creature driven by primitive instincts that view all other humans as either threats to eliminate or hosts to infect. The battle between Birkin's mutated form and the military retrieval team results in catastrophic damage to laboratory containment systems throughout the underground facility. Decades of accumulated viral samples escape into Raccoon City's water supply and ventilation networks, beginning an infection process that will consume the entire metropolitan area within hours. T-Virus contamination spreads through the city's infrastructure with terrifying efficiency, following pathways that municipal engineers never imagined could become vectors for biological warfare. The virus travels through sewage systems, air conditioning ducts, and underground utility tunnels, reaching every neighborhood simultaneously. Citizens begin showing infection symptoms before anyone recognizes the nature of the threat they face. Leon Kennedy arrives in Raccoon City for his first day as a police officer, completely unaware that he's driving into the epicenter of humanity's worst biological disaster. His law enforcement training has prepared him for routine criminal investigations and emergency response procedures. But nothing in his background provides guidance for dealing with a city where the dead refuse to stay buried. Claire Redfield enters Raccoon City from the opposite direction, searching for her brother Chris after losing contact following the Spencer Mansion incident. Her personal mission to locate family becomes a fight for survival as she encounters evidence that something has gone catastrophically wrong with the civilian population. The Raccoon City Police Department building, designed to serve as an emergency coordination center during civic crises, instead becomes a fortress where surviving officers make desperate last stands against infected citizens who were their neighbors only hours earlier. The building's Gothic architecture creates defensive advantages, but also provides countless hiding places for creatures that hunt with pack intelligence. Police Chief Brian Irons, secretly employed by Umbrella Corporation to suppress investigations into bioorganic weapons incidents, finds his carefully constructed cover identity collapsing as the city descends into chaos. His attempts to control information flow become irrelevant when the evidence of corporate malfeasance shambles through the streets seeking living flesh to consume. Underground laboratories that once represented the pinnacle of scientific achievement transform into hunting grounds where escaped experimental subjects pursue terrified researchers through corridors designed for sterile research activities. Decades of accumulated biological weapons roam freely through interconnected facility networks, creating an ecosystem of horrors that defies rational comprehension. The G-Virus outbreak represents only the beginning of Raccoon City's transformation into a testing ground for every biological weapon Umbrella has developed over the past 30 years. As infection spreads beyond any possibility of containment, corporate executives face decisions that will determine whether they can salvage anything from the catastrophe that was supposed to demonstrate their ultimate triumph. Ada Wong moves through Raccoon City's chaotic streets with purposeful grace that betrays professional training far beyond civilian capabilities. Her presence in the city during its darkest hour appears coincidental to casual observers, but her true mission involves recovering G-Virus samples for corporate interests that compete directly with Umbrella's biological weapons program. She represents forces that have monitored Birkin's research for years, waiting for the perfect opportunity to acquire his revolutionary technology. Ada's background remains deliberately obscured through multiple layers of corporate deception and intelligence agency misdirection. Her employer's identity shifts depending on which documentation investigators discover, creating a paper trail that leads nowhere while providing plausible explanations for her exceptional combat skills and scientific knowledge. She operates with the confidence of someone accustomed to navigating dangerous situations where failure means death. Leon's encounter with Ada introduces him to complexities that extend far beyond simple survival in a zombie-infested city. Her apparent civilian status conflicts with capabilities that suggest extensive training in infiltration and combat techniques. Their developing relationship becomes complicated by mutual attraction that neither can afford to pursue while focused on escaping the biological nightmare surrounding them. Meanwhile, Claire's search for her brother leads her deep into Umbrella's underground research network, where she discovers evidence of experiments that make the Spencer Mansion incidents seem like preliminary research. The corporation's Raccoon City facilities represent decades of accumulated knowledge about biological weapons development, with research programs that explore every possible application of viral enhancement technology. Sherry Birkin, daughter of the G-Virus creator, becomes an unwilling participant in her father's final experiment when exposure to his mutated form infects her with genetic material that grants enhanced healing abilities, while threatening to transform her into something inhuman. Her condition represents both the promise and horror of G-Virus technology, demonstrating beneficial applications alongside catastrophic risks. Claire's determination to protect Sherry reflects instincts that transcend simple heroism, representing humanity's fundamental drive to preserve innocence even when faced with overwhelming evidence that traditional morality has become obsolete. Their relationship develops into a surrogate family bond that provides emotional anchor points in a world where familiar social structures have collapsed entirely. The police station serves as a temporary refuge where survivors gather to share information and coordinate escape attempts. But its defensive advantages prove temporary against creatures that grow stronger and more numerous with each passing hour. Ammunition supplies dwindle rapidly while infected citizens continue arriving in waves that test every barricade and security measure the building provides. Marvin Branagh, a veteran police officer whose dedication to public service epitomizes law enforcement ideals, struggles to maintain order and hope among survivors who witness their city transforming into something from their worst nightmares. His leadership provides stability during crisis situations, though his infection with T-virus creates a ticking clock that adds urgency to every decision about evacuation procedures. Underground exploration reveals the true scope of Umbrella's Raccoon City operations, with research facilities that extend far deeper and cover much more territory than official building permits suggest. These hidden laboratories contain decades of accumulated biological weapons research, including prototype creatures that represent evolutionary dead ends too dangerous for continued development. The discovery of Hunk's presence in the city adds another layer of complexity to an already chaotic situation. As leader of Umbrella's Special Security Services, Hunk represents corporate interests that prioritize sample recovery over human life, viewing civilian casualties as acceptable losses in pursuit of strategic objectives. His mission parameters authorize any methods necessary to secure G-virus materials before government forces can intervene. Communication networks throughout Raccoon City fail systematically, as power grids succumb to damage caused by infected citizens and escaped experimental subjects. The breakdown of infrastructure isolates survivors in small groups that must rely on personal resourcefulness rather than coordinated emergency response procedures. Each group develops independent survival strategies based on available resources and defensive positions. Corporate executives monitoring the situation from secure locations outside Raccoon City face decisions that will determine Umbrella's future as a viable organization. The city's transformation into a biological weapons testing ground provides valuable data about viral transmission rates and creature behavior patterns, but it also creates evidence that could expose decades of illegal research to government investigation. Military forces gathering outside Raccoon City's perimeter represent multiple competing interests that view the outbreak as either a crisis to contain or an opportunity to acquire advanced biological weapons technology. Intelligence agencies from several nations have deployed assets to monitor the situation, while corporate rivals position themselves to exploit Umbrella's apparent vulnerability. The night deepens over Raccoon City as survivors navigate streets that have become hunting grounds for creatures that represent humanity's darkest scientific achievements. Each group of survivors carries pieces of a larger puzzle about Umbrella's operations, though none possess sufficient information to understand the full scope of corporate conspiracy that has led to their current predicament. Time runs short for evacuation, as government officials debate responses that range from military intervention to complete sterilization of the contaminated area. October 1st, 1998, dawns gray and ominous over Raccoon City as government officials in Washington, D.C. convene emergency sessions to address what has become an unprecedented national security crisis. Satellite imagery reveals the complete breakdown of civil order throughout the metropolitan area, with fires burning unchecked and no signs of coordinated emergency response activities. The city has effectively ceased functioning as a human habitation. Military analysts present classified briefings that paint a picture of biological contamination beyond anything previously encountered in warfare or terrorism scenarios. The speed and thoroughness of Raccoon City's collapse suggests viral agents that exceed known pathogen capabilities by orders of magnitude. Intelligence reports describe infected populations that exhibit behaviors inconsistent with any documented disease patterns. President's science advisors struggle to comprehend reports that describe reanimated corpses hunting living humans with pack intelligence and enhanced physical capabilities. The scientific impossibility of such phenomena conflicts with consistent eyewitness testimony from military personnel and surviving emergency responders. Conventional medical understanding provides no framework for addressing threats that appear to violate fundamental biological principles. Nuclear sterilization emerges as the only viable option for preventing viral spread beyond Raccoon City's borders. Though the political implications of destroying an American city create complications that extend far beyond immediate public health concerns, the decision requires accepting responsibility for killing thousands of American citizens to protect millions of others from contamination that might already be spreading through refugee populations. Leon and Claire's desperate search for escape routes leads them deeper into Umbrella's underground research network, where they discover evidence of corporate planning that anticipated citywide contamination scenarios. Emergency protocols detail procedures for sample recovery and personnel evacuation that prioritize research materials over civilian population safety. The documentation reveals that Umbrella viewed Raccoon City residents as expendable test subjects rather than citizens deserving protection. Ada's mission reaches critical stages as she locates G-virus samples that represent her employer's primary objective in deploying her to Raccoon City. Her success in acquiring these materials would provide competing organizations with capabilities that could shift global power balances, making her extraction a strategic priority that justifies enormous risks. The samples she seeks represent scientific breakthroughs worth more than entire national defense budgets. Sherry's condition deteriorates as G-virus infection progresses through stages that William Birkin never fully documented during his research. Her body adapts to viral enhancement through processes that grant remarkable healing abilities, while threatening to transform her into something that transcends human biological classification. Claire's determination to save her becomes increasingly complicated by uncertainty about whether salvation remains possible. The mutated William Birkin continues evolving throughout his pursuit of the survivors, his form adapting to overcome obstacles and injuries through genetic modifications that occur in real time. Each encounter with his transformed state reveals new capabilities that suggest G-virus enhancement has no upper limits or stabilization mechanisms. He represents the ultimate expression of uncontrolled biological evolution. Corporate communications, intercepted by government intelligence agencies, reveal that Umbrella executives have implemented contingency plans designed to exploit the Raccoon City disaster for maximum strategic advantage. Rather than accepting responsibility for the outbreak, the corporation intends to position itself as essential for developing countermeasures against bioterrorism threats that they themselves created. Hunk's extraction mission proceeds according to predetermined parameters that prioritize sample recovery over any humanitarian considerations. His team operates with military efficiency that treats civilian casualties as inevitable collateral damage in pursuit of strategic objectives. The Special Security Services represent Umbrella's commitment to protecting corporate interest regardless of human cost. Underground research facilities reveal the true scope of Umbrella's biological weapons development program, with specialized laboratories dedicated to creating enhanced versions of every creature type they have successfully produced. Decades of accumulated research have created an evolutionary ecosystem where predatory instincts combine with supernatural capabilities to produce apex predators designed specifically for human elimination. Communication intercepts reveal that several foreign intelligence agencies have deployed assets to Raccoon City with missions focused on acquiring samples of American biological weapons technology. The outbreak has created opportunities for espionage operations that could shift military capabilities on a global scale, making the city a battlefield for corporate and national interests that extend far beyond immediate survival concerns. Time pressure intensifies as government officials debate sterilization procedures, while survivors continue fighting for escape from a city that has become a living laboratory for biological weapons testing. Every hour of delay increases the risk that viral contamination will spread beyond containment perimeters, but premature action could eliminate evidence necessary for prosecuting those responsible for the disaster. The weight of accumulated knowledge about Umbrella's operations creates moral burdens that survivors struggle to process while focused on immediate survival needs. They have become witnesses to crimes against humanity that dwarf historical precedents, carrying responsibilities for testimony that could expose corporate conspiracies spanning multiple decades and countless victims. As night falls again over Raccoon City, the final hours begin counting down toward a decision that will determine whether justice or cover-up emerges from humanity's darkest scientific achievement. The nuclear warhead, designated Operation Raccoon's End, streaks through the pre-dawn darkness of October 1st, 1998, carrying with it the weight of a decision that will haunt American leadership for generations. At precisely 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a miniaturized thermonuclear device detonates 3,000 feet above Raccoon City's downtown district, creating a brief artificial sun that erases decades of corporate conspiracy along with 100,000 innocent lives. The explosion vaporizes everything within a 2-mile radius instantaneously, while thermal radiation extends the destruction much further into residential neighborhoods, where families slept unaware that their government had decided their sacrifice was necessary to prevent global catastrophe. The blast creates a mushroom cloud visible from neighboring states, marking the first time in human history that nuclear weapons have been used against an American city. Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield escape the destruction by mere minutes, their helicopter lifting off from the underground research facility, just as seismic sensors detect the incoming warhead. Through the aircraft's windows, they witness the flash that transforms their desperate fight for survival into a Pyrrhic victory that saves humanity at an incomprehensible cost. The city that nearly became their tomb instead becomes a monument to corporate greed and government desperation. Ada Wong's extraction occurs through channels that operate independently of official evacuation procedures, her mysterious employers demonstrating resources that rival government capabilities. The G-virus samples she secured during the chaos represent scientific breakthroughs that will reshape global power dynamics, though their ultimate applications remain hidden behind layers of corporate secrecy that may never be fully penetrated. Sherry Birkin survives the evacuation as living proof that G-virus enhancement can produce beneficial rather than catastrophic results when properly controlled. Her unique immunity to viral infection makes her invaluable to research programs focused on developing countermeasures against bioterrorism threats. She becomes a ward of the federal government, her childhood sacrificed to scientific necessity just as surely as if she had perished in the nuclear fire. The official government narrative describes Raccoon City's destruction as necessary response to terrorist deployment of biological weapons, carefully omitting any mention of Umbrella Corporation's role in creating the very threats that justified such extreme measures. Corporate executives who orchestrated decades of illegal human experimentation escape prosecution through plea agreements that prioritize intelligence gathering over criminal accountability. Hunk emerges from the underground research complex carrying samples that represent Umbrella's most valuable assets, his successful extraction ensuring that key research materials survive despite the facility's destruction. His mission parameters demonstrate that corporate interest anticipated citywide sterilization scenarios and prepared accordingly, viewing nuclear destruction as an acceptable cost for protecting strategic secrets. International reactions to the Raccoon City incident vary dramatically based on each nation's intelligence capabilities and strategic interests. Countries that have monitored Umbrella's research programs recognize the implications immediately, while others accept the official terrorism explanation without questioning inconsistencies in the provided evidence. The nuclear detonation eliminates physical evidence of corporate wrongdoing, while creating new problems that prove equally challenging for government officials tasked with managing public perception. Radioactive contamination provides cover for restricting access to Ground Zero, but it also attracts international monitoring that complicates efforts to control information about what actually occurred in the city. Corporate stock markets react to news of Umbrella's involvement with crashes that wipe out billions in shareholder value within hours of the first leaked reports. The company's carefully constructed public image collapses as investors recognize that association with biological weapons development makes the corporation radioactive in both literal and metaphorical senses. Surviving Umbrella research facilities worldwide begin implementing emergency protocols designed to destroy evidence while preserving critical research materials. The corporation's global network demonstrates coordination that suggests preparation for exactly this scenario, with contingency plans that prioritize protecting strategic assets over corporate survival in its current form. Spencer's personal response to the Raccoon City destruction reveals the depth of his megalomaniacal ambitions, as he views the nuclear sterilization as validation of his warnings about humanity's inability to handle advanced biological technology responsibly. Rather than accepting defeat, he interprets the catastrophe as proof that more drastic measures are necessary to impose order on global civilization. Scientific communities worldwide begin grappling with ethical questions raised by evidence that pharmaceutical corporations have developed biological weapons capabilities in secret research programs operating parallel to legitimate medical research. The revelation that such technology exists forces re-evaluation of oversight mechanisms that clearly failed to prevent catastrophic misuse. The survivors carry with them knowledge that governments would prefer to suppress, making them valuable assets for intelligence agencies, while simultaneously marking them as potential security risks. Their testimonies about Umbrella's operations provide the foundation for investigations that will continue for years, though the nuclear destruction ensures that much evidence remains permanently lost. As dawn breaks over the radioactive crater that was once Raccoon City, the true scope of corporate conspiracy becomes clear even as the physical evidence vanishes in nuclear fire. The age of bioterrorism has begun, and humanity faces threats that make previous warfare seem primitive by comparison. The months following Raccoon City's destruction witness a global transformation in how governments approach biotechnology regulation and corporate oversight. Intelligence agencies worldwide begin investigating pharmaceutical companies with new scrutiny, recognizing that civilian research facilities might conceal weapons development programs sophisticated enough to threaten national security. The comfortable assumption that academic and commercial research serves only beneficial purposes evaporates in the radioactive aftermath of America's first domestic nuclear strike. Leon Kennedy's recruitment into a classified government program reflects official recognition that traditional law enforcement lacks preparation for bioterrorism threats. His experiences during the Raccoon City incident provide invaluable insight into combating creatures that conventional training cannot address. The program's existence acknowledges that biological weapons have fundamentally altered the landscape of national defense, requiring specialists who understand both tactical response and scientific countermeasures. Claire Redfield dedicates herself to protecting Sherry while advocating for other survivors who suffered exposure to Umbrella's experimental programs. Her transformation from civilian college student to activist fighting corporate conspiracy demonstrates how individual lives can be redirected by encounters with institutional evil. The organization she helps establish becomes a voice for victims whose suffering government agencies prefer to classify rather than acknowledge. Chris Redfield joins the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance during its formation, contributing his Spencer Mansion and Raccoon City experience to an international organization designed to prevent future biological weapons catastrophes. BSAA represents unprecedented cooperation between nations that recognize bioterrorism as a threat transcending traditional political boundaries. The alliance's mandate acknowledges that viral weapons require coordinated global response rather than individual national strategies. Umbrella Corporation's official dissolution occurs through bankruptcy proceedings that obscure the fate of key research personnel and strategic assets. Corporate executives who orchestrated biological weapons development programs disappear into witness protection arrangements or emerge with new identities in pharmaceutical companies that appear unrelated to their previous activities. The legal fiction of corporate death conceals the reality that Umbrella's knowledge and capabilities have dispersed rather than vanished. Albert Wesker's apparent death during the Spencer Mansion incident proves deceptive, as his infection with an experimental viral strain grants enhanced physical capabilities while preserving human intelligence. His transformation into something that transcends normal biological limitations reflects Umbrella's ultimate ambition to create superior human beings through controlled genetic modification. Wesker becomes the prototype for evolutionary advancement that Spencer envisioned as humanity's destiny. International intelligence agencies discover that Umbrella's research network extended far beyond American facilities, with installations on every inhabited continent conducting specialized aspects of biological weapons development. The corporation's global reach demonstrates decades of planning that anticipated regulatory restrictions and government oversight, creating redundancies that ensure research continuity despite localized disruptions. Scientific analysis of viral samples recovered from Raccoon City reveals technological capabilities that exceed current understanding of genetic engineering and biological systems manipulation. The T virus and G virus represent breakthroughs that compress centuries of natural evolution into laboratory timeframes, creating possibilities for biological enhancement that border on science fiction rather than medical reality. Government cover-up efforts focus on suppressing public awareness of how close Umbrella came to achieving operational deployment of biological weapons, sophisticated enough to destabilize global civilization. Official narratives emphasize terrorist acquisition of primitive viral agents, rather than acknowledging corporate development of advanced bioweapons that make nuclear arsenals seem obsolete by comparison. Pharmaceutical industry regulation undergoes comprehensive reform, as legislators grapple with evidence that legitimate medical research can conceal weapons development programs sophisticated enough to threaten human civilization. New oversight mechanisms attempt to prevent dual-use research that serves both beneficial medical applications and potential military deployment, though enforcement remains challenging given the technical complexity involved. Research into countermeasures against biological weapons accelerates as governments recognize that viral threats require defensive capabilities beyond traditional medical responses. The development of enhanced vaccines, antiviral treatments, and protective equipment becomes a strategic priority that rivals nuclear defense spending during Cold War decades. Corporate espionage intensifies as competing organizations attempt to acquire Umbrella's dispersed research capabilities for their own biological weapons programs. The knowledge accumulated through decades of illegal human experimentation represents strategic advantages worth billions of dollars, making former Umbrella personnel valuable assets for recruitment by rival corporations and foreign intelligence services. Survivor testimonies provide the foundation for investigations that reveal the scope of corporate conspiracy, while raising questions about government knowledge of Umbrella's activities prior to the Raccoon City incident. Congressional hearings and international tribunals struggle to assign responsibility for regulatory failures that allowed biological weapons development to proceed undetected for decades. The radioactive exclusion zone surrounding Raccoon City becomes a permanent reminder of how corporate ambition and government desperation combined to produce America's worst domestic catastrophe. The area serves as both memorial to innocent victims and warning about the consequences of allowing scientific capability to develop without ethical oversight. As 2001 approaches, the world has been fundamentally changed by revelations about biological weapons capabilities that most people never imagined possible. The age of bioterrorism has begun, and humanity faces an uncertain future where the line between medical research and weapons development remains dangerously blurred. The years following Raccoon City's destruction witness a fundamental shift in global security priorities, as nations recognize that biological weapons represent threats potentially more devastating than nuclear arsenals. Unlike atomic weapons that require sophisticated delivery systems and rare materials, viral agents can spread through normal human contact while remaining undetected until outbreak conditions become irreversible. This realization forces military strategists to reconsider assumptions about deterrence and defense that governed international relations throughout the 20th century. Leon's career in government service evolves as he becomes one of the world's foremost experts in bioterrorism response. His experiences during the Raccoon City incident, providing unique insights that prove invaluable for training programs designed to prepare law enforcement and military personnel for viral weapon encounters. His psychological evaluation reports document the long-term mental health effects of surviving biological weapons attacks, contributing to treatment protocols for future incident responders. Chris Redfield's work with the BSAA takes him to every continent as reports of bioorganic weapons incidents increase dramatically following Umbrella's collapse. Former corporate researchers and security personnel have dispersed across the globe, carrying knowledge and sample materials that enable smaller organizations to develop their own biological weapons programs. The proliferation of viral technology creates a cat-and-mouse game where international response teams struggle to contain threats that evolve faster than countermeasures can be developed. Claire's advocacy efforts reveal that Umbrella's human experimentation programs affected thousands of individuals whose suffering remains largely unacknowledged by official investigations focused on corporate wrongdoing rather than victim compensation. Many survivors of Umbrella's research programs suffer ongoing health problems related to viral exposure, while others display enhanced physical capabilities that make them valuable assets for intelligence agencies seeking to develop superhuman operatives. Sherry Birkin's unique immunity to viral infection makes her a permanent research subject, whose blood samples contribute to vaccine development and antiviral treatments that save countless lives during subsequent bioterrorism incidents. Her childhood effectively ends with Raccoon City's destruction, replaced by a carefully managed existence where government scientists monitor every aspect of her development to understand how G-virus enhancement can produce beneficial rather than catastrophic results. International pharmaceutical regulation undergoes the most comprehensive reform in medical history as governments implement oversight mechanisms designed to prevent dual-use research that could support weapons development. The new regulatory framework requires unprecedented transparency in biological research while attempting to preserve innovation necessary for legitimate medical advancement. Enforcement proves challenging given the technical complexity of modern biotechnology and the ease with which research materials can be diverted to unauthorized applications. Corporate restructuring, following Umbrella's dissolution, demonstrates how easily biological weapons capabilities can be transferred between organizations through personnel recruitment and asset acquisition. Many former Umbrella facilities resume operation under new corporate ownership that maintains plausible distance from the disgraced corporation while continuing research programs that build upon accumulated knowledge of viral enhancement technology. Albert Wesker's transformation into something that transcends normal human limitations represents the successful achievement of Spencer's vision for controlled evolution. Though his psychological instability demonstrates the risks inherent in biological enhancement programs, his enhanced physical capabilities make him nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons while granting him influence over viral research programs that continue developing more sophisticated bioweapons. Scientific communities worldwide struggle with ethical questions raised by evidence that biological enhancement technology exists and could provide tremendous benefits if properly controlled. The potential for treating genetic disorders, extending human lifespan, and enhancing physical capabilities through viral modification conflicts with recognition that the same technology enables weapons development that threatens human civilization. Intelligence agencies discover that state-sponsored biological weapons programs have accelerated dramatically following revelations about Umbrella's achievements, with several nations investing heavily in research designed to duplicate or exceed the corporation's capabilities. The proliferation of viral weapons technology creates arms race dynamics that make international cooperation essential while remaining politically challenging to achieve. Economic analysis reveals that biological weapons development requires significantly less financial investment than nuclear programs, while potentially delivering greater strategic impact through their ability to destabilize entire regions without destroying infrastructure. This cost-effectiveness makes viral weapons attractive to terrorist organizations and smaller nations that lack resources for conventional military buildup. Archaeological investigation of other Umbrella research sites reveals evidence that the corporation's activities extended far beyond documented facilities, with installations in remote locations that operated independently of corporate oversight mechanisms. These discoveries suggest that biological weapons research may continue in locations unknown to international monitoring agencies, creating ongoing threats that could manifest without warning. Medical researchers working to develop countermeasures against viral weapons face the fundamental challenge that biological enhancement technology evolves continuously, making static defensive approaches inadequate for addressing adaptive threats. The development of effective countermeasures requires understanding of enhancement mechanisms that borders on weapons research itself, creating ethical dilemmas about how much knowledge is necessary for defensive purposes. As the new millennium progresses, humanity has entered an era where the boundaries between medical advancement and weapons development remain dangerously unclear, creating ongoing risks that will define international security challenges for generations to come. The gentle morning light filters through the windows of a small cafe in Washington, D.C., where survivors of the Raccoon City incident occasionally gather to share memories that most of the world will never fully understand. These quiet moments between missions and investigations provide necessary respite from careers dedicated to preventing biological catastrophes, offering precious opportunities to process experiences that fundamentally change their understanding of human nature and unscientific possibility. Leon sits across from Claire, both older now and bearing the weight of knowledge that comes from witnessing humanity's capacity for both extraordinary evil and remarkable resilience. Their conversation flows naturally between updates about ongoing investigations and shared reflections about how their lives diverged from paths they never could have imagined as young adults entering what seemed like routine professional situations. The world has continued turning despite revelations about corporate conspiracy and biological weapons development that once seemed capable of ending civilization itself. Children attend schools, families gather for holidays, and communities thrive in ways that demonstrate humanity's remarkable ability to adapt and heal even after confronting existential threats. This resilience provides hope that future generations might learn from past mistakes without having to repeat them personally. Claire's work with survivor advocacy groups has revealed thousands of individuals whose lives intersected with Umbrella's research programs in ways that range from obvious victimization to subtle manipulation. Her organization provides support networks that help these survivors process trauma while contributing to ongoing investigations that continue uncovering evidence of corporate wrongdoing spanning multiple decades and countless innocent victims. Sherry has grown into a remarkable young woman whose unique medical condition contributes to research that saves lives around the world. Her immunity to viral infections serving as the foundation for treatments that prevent bioterrorism incidents from becoming global catastrophes. Her sacrifice of normal childhood experiences has enabled advances in medical science that protect millions of people from threats they will never know existed. Chris continues his work with the BSAA, his expertise in bioterrorism response, making him one of the most respected professionals in a field that didn't exist before. Umbrella's activities forced the world to recognize biological weapons as legitimate military threats. His missions take him to locations where other corporations or terrorist organizations attempt to duplicate Umbrella's achievements, each successful intervention preventing potential disasters that could dwarf even Raccoon City's destruction. The pharmaceutical industry has largely adapted to enhanced regulatory oversight that requires unprecedented transparency in biological research, though enforcement remains an ongoing challenge given the technical complexity of modern biotechnology and the ease with which research materials can be diverted to unauthorized applications. Most legitimate researchers welcome these safeguards as necessary protection against repetition of Umbrella's crimes. International cooperation in bioterrorism prevention has achieved levels of coordination that seemed impossible during previous decades. Characterized by national competition and strategic rivalry, the shared recognition that viral weapons threaten all humanity equally has created common ground for collaboration that transcends traditional political boundaries and ideological differences. Scientific advancement continues in areas related to genetic medicine and biological enhancement, though with ethical oversight mechanisms designed to prevent research from developing weapons applications. The potential benefits of controlled genetic modification remain enormous, particularly for treating hereditary diseases and extending healthy human lifespan, but progress proceeds carefully with constant awareness of how beneficial research can be perverted for destructive purposes. The exclusion zone around Raccoon City has become a place of quiet remembrance, where nature slowly reclaims urban landscapes that once bustled with human activity. The radioactive contamination continues declining towards safe levels while wildlife populations demonstrate remarkable adaptability to environmental conditions that initially seemed incompatible with complex life forms. Spencer's ultimate fate remains unknown to most investigators, though intelligence agencies continue monitoring activities that suggest his survival and ongoing involvement in biological research programs operating beyond conventional oversight mechanisms. His vision of controlled human evolution through viral enhancement has inspired followers whose activities create ongoing security concerns for agencies responsible for preventing bioterrorism incidents. Memorial services for Raccoon City victims occur annually, providing opportunities for survivors and family members to honor those lost while reaffirming commitment to ensuring such tragedies never occur again. These gatherings demonstrate humanity's capacity for healing and growth even after experiencing unimaginable loss and betrayal. As evening settles over the nation's capital, the survivors part ways knowing that their shared experiences have created bonds deeper than family relationships. They carry forward memories of ordinary people who rose to extraordinary challenges, proving that courage and compassion can triumph over corporate greed and scientific hubris, when individuals choose to act according to conscience rather than convenience. The story of Resident Evil serves as both warning and inspiration, demonstrating how quickly human civilization can approach the brink of destruction, while also revealing the remarkable strength that emerges when people refuse to surrender hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. Sweet dreams await those who listen to tales of survival and resilience, knowing that tomorrow brings new opportunities to protect the innocent and preserve the future. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of gaming's most complex and haunting timelines. If you enjoyed this exploration of biological horror and human courage, please subscribe for more deep dives into the lore that shapes our favorite fictional worlds,